They got up and tried to explain to us, how to get around the illegal question, how old are you? There was a phrase that I kept saying, when did you graduate from high school? Or when do you graduate from high school? And that was our trigger. If they hadn't graduated, they were probably not 18 yet. And I said, well, why do we want to bring in high school kids? This is ridiculous. And they go, those are our ideal candidates. And that was kind of when I started backing up, thinking, you want young and dumb kids to come in and they don't know what they're doing.
Okay, so you were an admin and recruiter for almost a year out of Houston. So just take me through like your day in the life of an admin. What were some of your responsibilities?
So I would get there in the morning around 8, and I would let, depending on the day, I would let the entry-level people into the office while they were doing their morning meetings, the leaders, and I would immediately shut myself into an office with the other 2 admins, and we would start making calls. We'd get on our list. We had a whole portal, is what we called it, and we had a list of what we called 5-star people. We had 3-star people and 1-star people. So we would hit, all of our lists. We always had a solid plan on who we were going to call, when we were going to call them. And our goals were, I'm going to keep doing this because it's all fake.
Of course.
Our goals were 150 plus calls a day. It doesn't matter if you left them all messages or if you got in contact with them, but you had to get at least 20 to 40 interviews a day. Mm-hmm. And that could consist of freshly graduated high school kids or college kids or people in college, but wait, we can't do part-time because it has to be a full-time. I mean, it was just, we called so many people every day, and it was convincing them that this wasn't an entry-level sales job and that this was, a bigger opportunity, and, we're a big family. So it got to the point where I actually had to, we had headsets. And I had to switch every month. I had to switch ears because I just got these ringing, horrible, just like pains in my ear just from calling so many people.
Wow. Another admin I previously talked to discussed some of the scripts that you have to follow. So if someone asked a certain question like, is this sales? There were certain things you had to say and not say. So at least from what you can remember, take us through the scripts a little bit. Is if someone were to call one of these offices, what would be some of the things they would most certainly hear?
You would hear us, you ask the first 3 questions. Are you looking for full-time? Yes, great, no, sorry, bye. We'd hang up the phone. Most calls were, they had to be max of 3 minutes. So we had to combine everything into 3 minutes so we could make more calls. So I would start with, are you looking for full-time or part-time? We're located at X. Is this a good commute for you? Tell me about yourself. And okay. We wouldn't really let them speak very much. We definitely cut them off and, just kind of talk about the position. And it's what we do is event marketing. We create promotional campaigns for our clients to ensure their branding and business development. Every couple of months, we would rebrand it and rescript it because a lot of the other marketing firms in Houston would steal what we were saying. So basically, what I did something a little bit different than the rest of the admins. We had a book, we had a whole binder on how to get people in the door. And there was one that was geared towards the job posting. So say that somebody applied for an assistant management position. I had a little 3 sentence little phrase to say to them to make them come in. Same thing with PR, event marketing, just everything. So that's what I would do, my first little script, and then I would go immediately into that and gear it towards what they applied to, which is awful. Yeah. So I know that my other colleagues, they were just very on the script, and we had the head admin with the organization, horrible person. We hated her. She hated us. She would come in and just tell us we were doing a horrible job and that we needed to work harder. Well, I say it like this, and she would just come in and basically bring us down to the point where we were just, I mean, conditioned like Pavlov dogs. It was awful.
Now, I'm sure you've had discussions with her and with your owner about this. The term overqualified is something that I've heard from a couple people regarding candidates. So when you're looking through all these people and you're looking at their resumes and making phone calls, who would be considered an overqualified individual?
Anyone who graduated high school after 2007 or before 2007.
Is that explicitly mentioned or written somewhere?
Nope, that's just what we are told in when we're training. It's something that they say, these people probably won't want an entry-level job, so call them overqualified. They're too old. They definitely discriminate on your age. And I found a good candidate who actually wanted an entry-level sales job and came in for the interview, and his interview lasted for about 2 minutes, and they came out and said, "Why did you bring him in? He was obviously too old."
Hmm.
Yeah. So it overqualified. It can be if you have your master's, if you have your PhD.
And that's actually how I got sucked into it. Because I was in between jobs, I was looking for work, I wasn't getting anything, so I took my master's degree off my resume, and that's how I got the phone call, and that's how I got involved in this operation. Um, so were there any other things that owners were looking for aside from being too old? Well, we'll call them overqualified. Is there anything else from an HR perspective that would be a big red flag in a normal office?
I mean, oh gosh, there's so many. Um, at least when I screened resumes, and it wasn't ever fully said, the things that we were to look for and what we shouldn't look for. I mean, obviously there were things we had to look for, the people who are young, the recent grads. I was told explicitly, do not bring full-blown students in unless we can convince them to drop out of school.
Jeez.
Yeah. There was somebody who was working with the organization, and he wanted a one-on-one with me. And normally the admins didn't do one-on-ones because we knew too much about the business. And he asked me, they told me to, or in order to further my career with this organization, I would have to drop out of school. What are your thoughts? And I kind of leaned back and I said, they told you to drop out of school? And he goes, yeah, about 3 people did. The owner, his leader, and another leader told him to drop out of school. I told him not to, and he quit a week later.
Oh, good for you. That's good.
Yeah, that was when I started realizing that this is probably a bad organization.
Yeah.
It took a while to realize it.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm curious about, because every person that I've spoken with so far has had a moment or moments when they started to question. And the red flags that they might have noticed, they ignored them and pushed them to the back of their brains, but they actually started to question them. So what were some of the things that you started to notice and started to question? And when did you really start to question what you were doing there?
It wasn't until we had a conference. We had an admin conference in Dallas. So we all drove up, and we stayed in this kind of nice hotel. And our meetings, like what we had to do was all of the admins from across the country were there, and they got up and tried to explain to us, how to get around the illegal question, how old are you? How to get around, all of these different illegal things in order to bring people into the business.
Mm-hmm.
There was a phrase that I kept saying, when did you graduate from high school? Or when do you graduate from high school? And that was our trigger. If they hadn't graduated, they were probably not 18 yet. And I said, well, why do we want to bring in high school kids? This is ridiculous. And they go, those are our ideal candidates. And that was kind of when I started backing up, thinking, you want young and dumb kids to come in, and they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And this whole thing, they tried to make it fun. We made life collages and we sat outside and we all met with everybody. Well, you need to meet, well, you need to network with this person. You need to network with this person. You got to meet I'll go into the whole mentorship program here in a little bit, but that is something that I want to talk about, is that fake promotion. And there was the head admin. She was the one who ran the whole thing. And her name was Chelsea, and she was a tyrant. She would come up to you and she'd quiz you on different things. Erin, what's the pay? What's the pay? And you would have to say, the pay is, oh gosh, I can't even remember it now. It's been so long. What pay are you looking for? Is how we would start that. And they said, oh, well, I'm looking for about 40 grand. Well, that may be possible, but I can't guarantee it because it's an entry-level position. But we'll talk about it when you come in for your interview tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So she would quiz you on things to say, and condition you. I can't say it enough. We were Pavlov's dogs, and we had to take so many notes, and we had to, figure everything out and just network with everybody to get everybody's perspective on how to deceive people. So definitely that conference was when I realized this something's not right. And my fiance, he asked me, is this a pyramid scheme? And I thought, no, it's a great opportunity. And I got back from that conference and I said, I think I've been roped into a pyramid scheme.
So where do you go from there? I mean, once you realize like this leads to nothing and you were, like you said, roped into this, how do you handle it? Where do you go from there?
It was, honestly, one of my colleagues, we would go for a drink after work. We ended up becoming very, very good friends, and the three of us are still very good friends today. We were sitting talking about it. I'm going through these problems. Are you going through these problems? And we had two owners in one office. So I was with an owner, she was with an owner. And we're talking, what are we going to do after this? I said, how are we going to leave here? Like, what are we going to do? And she was still very much about the opportunity, about this position. I said, dude, this is a pyramid scheme. Like, we need to get out. And then, I'm based in Houston, and Hurricane Harvey hit. And so our numbers ended up going way down. And so I was out of town and she got let go. And then when I came back, I got let go. And it was probably the happiest day. They called me into the office and said, oh no, well, we love you so much. And, it's just not working out. It's the hardest thing for me. And I said, look, I know exactly what you're doing. I'm very smart. So, bye. And she goes, I'm going to write you a big recommendation letter. I just adore you. And it was just a stab in the back. They were lying to my face. And it turned out that the other head admin, who was head of logistics and everything, she was the one who convinced everyone to let all of us go, the two admins. So yeah. A lot of deceit. Thought these people were my friends. They were not my friends. They were out for their dollars.
Yeah, that's a common thing I hear with the manipulation and how it's practiced. And it's kind of done with in an overly positive way, with the upbeatness of the office atmosphere and the music that's playing, and the over positivity of the attitudes that kind of make you feel good to be there, and it kind of distracts you. It's kind of like a red herring. It distracts you from really how miserable your life is and how fake your relationships are. Because like you said, these people can be friendly to your face and whatnot, but they're looking out for themselves.
Mm-hmm. And what you brought in the lobby, that was manipulation 101. And I controlled the music. We did play a very kind of chill channel, but I wanted it to be more friendly, and it was honestly, their playlist was putting me to sleep. So I started playing kind of like upbeat, kind of music, throw a little like John Mayer, like something that everybody's going to like. Yeah. And we would make calls in front of applicants, and so many occasions, we would trade off lobby. All of us hated to be in the lobby. We all wanted to be in the office because it was better. We could put our feet up and we didn't have to deal with the candidates. And that's, as harsh as it sounds, I didn't want to meet these people. I just wanted to get them hired. Mm-hmm. So many times I'm on the phone making these calls, and they sound exactly like the calls that I made to these candidates who were sitting in the lobby. And yeah, so many occasions. Well, I thought you said that this was the last day. No, we've had so many qualified candidates that
Yeah.
we've extended our interview process through to tomorrow. And a lot of people walked out. And when I first started, I thought, why would you walk out of an interview? But it's God, that whole thing. I still can't believe I got roped into it. But one of my favorites was fear of loss.
Mm-hmm.
Fear of loss. And, did you fear of loss them enough? And I thought, what? Yes. Well, I can't come in tomorrow for an interview. We never booked out. Never booked an interview. It was always the next day, or in some instances 2 days later. So fear of loss. Well, I can't guarantee that there will be spots, after tomorrow. We are wrapping up the interview process. So would 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock work for you? We wouldn't give them a choice.
Yeah. You assume the sale, as they say.
Oh, yeah. And then we had a lot of pressure on us as well, because our numbers were starting to go down, and the leaders, they wanted more people, and they wanted more interviews. Each leader wanted 5 second-round interviews a day, and that was very difficult. And so I had leaders coming into the office while I was on the phone and screaming at me and saying, why don't I have interviews? Why don't I have interviews? And I'm thinking, get out.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. And then the owner would come in and she would threaten you, and she would say, you have to do better. We're going to fire you, but we love you. Mm-hmm. And it was manipulation 101. The owners want admins to secret shop if their business is going down, because they want to know which marketing firms are doing well and why they're doing well. So I created a fake Indeed account and a fake ZipRecruiter account, and I applied to all of the business to business, door to door, all of the entry-level sales jobs around Houston. And I spent a full day driving around to these interviews, and I was recording them. And I have those recordings on my phone. And after those interviews, I would go to the owner and show them, here's what they're saying, here's what they're doing, here's their pitch, everything. I even have I don't think I still have them, the recordings of the actual phone calls from the admins. And they wanted to know exactly what their competition was. They wanted to know everything. So they had me go into these businesses, lie, and say, oh yeah, I definitely want a job, and I was a secret shopper. So the owner wanted to be number one. And I know for a fact that she has gone around and just demolished other people's businesses to take them. She's lost a lot of friends. Well, I guess she never really had friends. She just had employees.
So you mentioned this mentorship program. Tell us about this program.
So it was mentor and junior mentor. You had 2 routes with being an admin. You had the mentor program, or you had office management. Office management was basically doing the logistics, doing the interviews, that kind of thing, when the owner was out of town. So at this conference, they kind of went into more detail, and you had your own junior mentor. When you start this job, you have a mentor, and you call them once a week. And if you don't call them, they scream at you. You also have to send them a daily breakdown. How many people did you call? How many interviews did you book? How many people showed up? What was your retention? Everything. And if you didn't, you got screamed at. It was just like being in kindergarten. It was insane. And so they told you more about the junior mentorship program at the conference, and they all got up there and they said, what a great opportunity it is, and you get to mentor other admins, and then you work your way up to mentor, where you're mentoring the junior mentors. And it was just it's basically the sales side of it for admins.
Yeah.
So it gives you a fake goal to reach with no pay raise, no authority, nothing. And you work your way up to becoming head admin, and everybody wanted Chelsea's job, and it was insane. And so when I got to talking to one of the higher up mentors, he was a trainer. He was at the top. He was a trainer. He was telling me about everything that goes into it, and I just looked at him and I thought, do you not see that this is not right?
Yeah.
Now he sees that. He called me and said, you were right. I was like, this is a pyramid scheme on both ends. my junior mentor, she was very sweet, very, very nice, to your face.
Right.
But behind closed doors, she would call, the head admin and say, so-and-so is not good at this, 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 and this. She needs to work on this, this, and this. She hasn't called me. There was a whole big issue where they told me that I didn't call my mentors, and I got threatened to get fired. I got, yelled at, and my owner called me in and said, "Why aren't you networking?" And I was calling the head trainer because we had gotten so close at the conference over my mentor who did nothing. She wasn't helpful at all. And so I told them, I've been calling the head trainer. I haven't been calling her. I've been calling the head trainer. And they wanted my phone records to prove it. They told me, call your carrier and get your phone records. And I said, no. I said, you are not going to have access to my phone records. I said, there is no way. And they said, well, how can you prove it? You're a liar. And I said, I'm not a liar. And then the head, the top of the top, she called me, and she called me a liar. She called me a bitch. She said I was full of shit, and just everything. And I said, is this how you talk to people? Is this honestly how you motivate somebody? Is you just scream at them? So I wrote out a whole report on her, and I said, I've been called a liar. I have been told I'm full of shit. I have told that I am not a good face for the lobby, and that I'm just all around a horrible person. And I thought, I am actually very nice.
Yeah.
And, I got the head trainer to call her and say, no, she's been calling me, and she still called me a liar.
What would you say if someone sees this, whether they're in that office or not, and they hear what you're saying and they say, oh, she was just bitter, or she wasn't good enough at her job? What do you say to that?
I have about 5 other people who can agree with me on this. They are master manipulators. I definitely fed into it. And if they want to say that I'm bitter and I'm just, well, why would you say that we were great to you? They weren't. They're still manipulating you. They tried to convince a kid to drop out of school for this position. That's not right. So I know that they're going to call me bitter. I know that they're probably going to reach out to me and say, how could you do this? But I have so many emails and text messages that would definitely be proof of what I'm saying. So call me bitter. That's fine. Anytime that anybody says it's event marketing, don't believe it. It's a pyramid scheme. Whenever it's called a 110, is when you, it's kind of like the restaurant's 86. If you draw 110 or write 110, put a circle around it, put a line through it, it looks like no. That is their way of telling you that you're not good enough. They're not going to hire you. We would 110 people on phone calls, and we would shut it down. Most of the time, I wouldn't even go into my pitch if I knew that you weren't a good person, if you weren't very articulate, if you slurred your words a little bit, if you sounded old, everything. I'd 110 you, and I wouldn't go into the pitch. I would say, well, right now we're in a screening process. I'm going to hand your resume over to the president of our firm. If chosen, we'll give you a call back at 4. It's a lie. We leave the office at 4. So another one is you can hear people in the background saying juice. And if the candidate was really good, called him juicy.
Oh yeah, juicy. Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because in all the offices I was in, the door to the impact room was always closed. So, and I know it gets pretty rowdy and loud, and people are cheering and chanting in there, but if you keep the door closed, it kind of safeguards against that from people hearing it on the phone, because I know it gets really loud in there.
I'll bang on the wall into the impact room to make them stop, because we still had to get candidates in. So I'd have to do everything to keep candidates from hearing people screaming in the background. And, oh, we just have a lot of fun in this office. It's a great atmosphere. But the second you hear somebody say juice, run. Join us in creating excitement. Run. If you hear anything about an impact room, if you hear anything about leadership, branding and business development, red flag, run. run. I had a friend recently called me and said, I got a phone interview with this company. And I said, what did they say? And they told me, and it was basically my pitch. And I was like, don't go.
Yeah.
Don't do it. And, since then, I'd say the only good thing that came out of that was it started my recruiting career. And now I'm in oil and gas, and I'm a recruiter with oil and gas with real opportunities. I can talk about the pay.
Yeah.
I can book out interviews. It's totally fine. But that was an experience that most of my friends didn't know what I was doing because it was so hard to explain. And one day I had pennies. We were having a drink and I had pennies, and I was like, you start off entry level and then you work your way up. And I created a little pyramid. I thought,
well, how about that? What a coincidence.
that's something. But what?
I said I figured it out pretty quick.
Oh, my.
Nobody can tell me what y'all did.
Did you hear him?
Yeah, who is that?
That's my fiance.
Yeah, he's not alone. I've talked to a lot of people who've said that, family specifically have told them, it's a pyramid scheme or this sounds really shady. But I mean, it's easy, right? It's so easy when you're in it to dismiss all that and say, oh, no, it's not. Or no, you don't know what you're talking about.
Like,
Paychecks cleared the
do
bank.
a job every day, so it has the appearance of being legit, but again, nobody could explain to me what y'all actually did.
And I think that's good advice. I think that's great advice for anyone who might get an interview and they're unsure about it, is to stay on that question. So what do you do? Okay, that sounds great. What do you do? Like, answer that question. And, where do you get your clients from? What products do you sell? And if it's in a Sam's Club, if it's in a Costco, then, count me out, because you're not fooling me.
I went to a couple of the events, and as an admin, it was weird to see it on the other side, and they were pulling people in and doing all, especially the leaders and people who really liked this opportunity and thought it was amazing. The way that they were doing it, and they said, do you want to jump in and do this? I said, no, I'm not sales. And then I sat in my car and I thought, oh, I'm selling the opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm in sales. Great. Everything about it, and your retention was the biggest thing every day. And it was, I have to explain it. So for people who don't know, if you book in 10 interviews, you want 80% of them to show up. That's your retention. There for a while, we were hitting, between 40 and 60, which wasn't good enough. One day I hit 10% retention. They wanted us to get people in the office. There was one day where there was a tornado going through Houston, and tornadoes I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
It's like my biggest fear. And I'm like fetal position. But they still wanted candidates to come in and interview. And I told them, I said, I'm calling these people and telling them I'm going to reschedule them for tomorrow. Well, if they can come in, they should. They wanted people to come in when we got back in from the hurricane. People were still flooded out. They wanted people to come in for interviews. They don't care about your life. They don't care about what you're doing. They don't care if you've gotten into a car crash. They don't care. Come in. We're not going to reschedule you. I had one lady, I called to confirm her interview, and I heard something in the background sounded like a banging, and she was screaming really loud. And I had her address on the resume, and they told me not to call the police, but I did anyways. Saved her life. She called me the next day and said, thank you.
Your owner told you not to call the police?
Mm-hmm. They said, well, that's their problem. And I said, well, I'm going to do it because that sounded very scary, and I'm going to call the police. So I called the police. They showed up. Apparently it was a break-in, and she answered the phone.
Huh.
But I had, after that, they said, you could have made 6 phone calls while you were doing that.
I feel like this is a movie. This is, you can't write stuff like this.
Nope.
This is just unbelievable.
I mean, and that's when, and I had gosh, that was maybe my first month there. That should have been my red flag right there.
Yeah. Why do you think it wasn't?
I was coming out of being a waiter, and I had made some very big decisions about school, and I thought I was starting a career, and I thought, if this is what I have to do to start my career, it's obviously a legit business, and it just wasn't a red flag. I just thought they wanted, the bigger picture, the bigger opportunity. Quote from them. Thank you for doing this, man. I mean, the word is out with the former admins, and we all want to be a part of this. We all want to expose this for what it is, and I hope that nobody else gets into this business on either side of it, because being an admin is very stressful. I mean, yeah, we didn't have to sell anything, or stand in a Sam's Club and Costco, but we were being manipulated and screamed at, and just basically just brought down into the depths of I mean, it was awful. Every day I left work and I thought, man, I am not good enough.
Yeah.
And that's not right. So if what you're doing keeps people from joining this, then yeah, I'm going to get more people to call you.